part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Chase Smith, founder and CEO of Press Play Podcast. You may have heard me on the Orange is Oranger Cleveland Browns podcast with Jeremy Powell, now wonderfully hosted by Holly Wetzel, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast with Sam Amico, or my own podcast, the Chase Smith Podcast. I wanted to take a few moments to talk to you about a brand new subscription-based podcast we're offering this football season, the Press Play Sports Podcast. This premium podcast feed will send all of the sports podcasts offered on the Press Play Podcast Network to one central feed. Yes, you can still follow and subscribe to all of our individual shows for free on every podcast platform. But if you wanted to consolidate your podcast feed and listen to them all in one location, the Press Play Sports Podcast is for you. I'm talking the Oranges and Oranger Browns podcast with Holly Wetzel and Jeremy Powell, Red Guy and Rhoda, Sable Brothers on the Baseline, Cavs on the Break, the Dennis Maniloff Show, the Ball Card Show, the Premium Fantasy Podcast, a Swing in a Tribe MLB podcast, and the Tim and Shipe Show, a college football podcast, all in one feed. All 9 of our sports shows curated into one single podcast feed. Out the door, you're looking at $5.36 a month after tax. That's $5.36, just about the cost of a drink at Starbucks. And this is only offered on Apple Podcasts. You can't get this anywhere else. It's an Apple Podcast exclusive. Just go to the search bar and search Press Play Sports. It'll come up and you can subscribe from there. We're excited to offer this consolidated, curated sports feed for you to enjoy. And as always, thank you so much for listening and your support.
This episode of the Orange is Oranger Cleveland Browns podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network, is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Align Health Center. Align Health Center is the first chiropractic biophysics clinic in Northern Ohio. The team at Align Health Center helps patients with back pain, neck pain, migraines, ADHD, digestive issues, sleep disturbance, whiplash, scoliosis, and much more. And along with chiropractic biophysics, Align Health Center is also the leading clinic in regenerative medicine, also known as stem cell injections. And listen, you don't have to be an NFL player to get it done or have this treatment. If you have low back pain, shoulder pain, knee pain, or arthritis, check out the Regenerative Medicine Clinic at Aligned Health Center. Come in for a free consultation, complete with imaging and x-rays to see how Aligned Health Center can help you. No multiple shots are needed, and it's complete with physical therapy built into the process, so there's no downtime. And look, it gets even better. Align Health Center doesn't charge people for x-rays or exams, and they don't bill you later. They let you know right away the cost. They're upfront and transparent. They are number one for a reason. Call Align Health Center today at 440-385-7357 or visit their website at alignedhealthcenters.com to make an appointment and to learn more about how Align Health Center can help you. Again, that's 440-385-7357 or visit alignedhealthcenters.com.
45-40, run, William, run! He's got blockers in front, 5, touchdown! Joshua Cribb! Snap back, ball down, kick block! They blocked the kick!
Hello, and welcome into the Orange is Oranger Cleveland Browns podcast. I'm your host, Holly Wetzel, at Holly and Liz on Twitter, and I'm joined as always by Mr. Jeremy Powell. Jeremy, I just want to let you know that I do plan on having my brother start to complain about you if I'm ever unhappy here on the Orange is Oranger, and then post clips of just me with proof.
How you are always open and I always miss you, huh?
Yes. I mean, just an FYI, you've been warned. Okay. So watch out for my brother posting ridiculous stuff and then responding to all mean comments about you. So
man. Right.
I mean, I don't know. I have no other witty intro for you, by the way. I'm not even in the mood after what has become just a straight dumpster fire of a day for the Browns. Dumpster fire of a week, of a season, which includes that atrocious game on Sunday, which is like almost such an afterthought at this point. And it's Tuesday, for God's sakes, which is just crazy. So, I don't even know really where to start. I mean, everything that could go wrong this season really has. We cannot seem to stay away from the drama as hard as we try. And I know that we can't right the ship of over 20 years of crap, but it's beyond frustrating that it's week 9 now, and we're already dealing with this, and it's beyond even more than what we thought it was. So it's just what I saw today. And for those who do not know what happened, by the way, Jeremy, I feel like every week I'm going to start saying I flop of like I wish you were still on Twitter to see this. This is this. And then the other times I'm like, you are so lucky you're not on Twitter to see this, and this, because it changes every week. But this week was really big because if you're not following, which it would be crazy if you haven't heard, Odell Beckham Jr.'s father reposted a highlight video 11 minutes long of all the times that OBJ was open. And then on top of that, went on to continue to respond to very mean Baker takes in the comments. And then to make things worse, LeBron James decided to weigh in for God knows what reason with hashtag free OBJ, and just shit has hit the fan today on Tuesday. So Jeremy, you're not on Twitter, but I know that you were able to keep up with all the drama.
Man, it's kind of what I predicted a few weeks ago. If this didn't go well, it had the likely chance, let's just say, or no, let me change that. Not likely. It was going to go bad. It was going to go bad for sure. And it was going to go bad because you have big personalities on this team. You have guys that want to win. You have big egos. It looked like for a year in a few weeks here, you kept them under wrap because you were winning. Now that you're not winning, when there starts to be problems, when you got big egos and big personalities, things go really, really bad. And I don't want to say that I'm happy I predicted this, because I'm not, but you could see it coming. If this didn't go right, it was going to go wrong, and it was going to go wrong bad. And it's heading that way now. Now that being said, a win this week would probably cure some of that, but I'm telling you, this week is such a must-win game, which sounds crazy for the 9th game of the year, but it really is. Because if you go into Cincinnati and you get stomped again with all that's going on around you, it's the cause of Kevin Stefanski's overrated, Baker's overrated, what's going on with this team. It's all going to be at a fever pitch, especially with an unhappy OBJ. Who knows where Jarvis is at right now? Apparently, Hollywood Higgins liked the video that Odell's dad posted. So there's just a lot of negative stuff going on right now. And, they always say winning's a great deodorant, right? Winning covers up a lot of stink. So if they could find a way to win this week, it could cover some of this up, but it's bad right now. It is bad. And it's going to get worse if they lose. I'll tell you that.
Do you think that if they won last week, we would have gotten that video reposted by Odell's dad?
No, I don't think so at all. Like I said, Odell in all reality had been a pro this whole time, even though he had not been getting the touches he wanted, not been getting the looks he wanted. He hadn't said much. He kind of kept to himself and said, okay. So I think if you're 5-3 after 8 games going into the Cincinnati game, I think his dad probably doesn't post that. Or if he does, Odell calls his dad, knock it off, cut that out. Now, a lot of people, a lot of conspiracy theories are saying, trading deadline was today. Did Odell's dad post that to try to push him out the door? I guess we'll never know the answer to that. And I guess it's possible as well. Go ahead.
I 100% believe it was all calculated. There is no way, we can't be that naive. They are grown adults, and there's a lot of money on the line, and your reputation. And for him, it's not like his dad just posted that video in support of his son on any random other day. It happened to be, first of all, the trade deadline. Second of all, he didn't stop there. He responded to so many comments,
I saw
Jeremy.
Check. The one person who said that either Baker, either A, doesn't want him to succeed. And did you see that one?
Yeah. That he's mediocre. He needs a new.
Yeah, all that. Oh, man.
It's bad. So that right there, that tells me enough that, and then LeBron, there's no way that LeBron James is going to tweet something like that without checking with him first. There's not at that caliber. LeBron knew what he was doing. I don't believe it for a second that it was not relatively orchestrated or planned on today. And if it's
trade deadline day.
Yes. I mean, there's just no way around it. And you're naive if you think otherwise, people, because that's what is more frustrating than anything, is that you really had to go into that route. And I don't want to hear he hasn't liked anything. He hasn't said anything. Well, that's just as bad, because he's not coming out there to say anything. No. What is he going to say to his dad? I don't know. But his dad wouldn't post that or say any of that shit in the first place if it wasn't true, or there wasn't at least a lot of smoke. At least, you know what I'm saying? So
sure, exactly. Your dad's not going to go out and do something like that, if you don't want him to. right? I mean, they've obviously been talking about it. Obviously, it's on Odell's mind. Look, I'm always open. I think I said that a couple weeks ago. I don't know the play calls. We don't know what the reads are. But from where I watch the games, Odell's always open. He really is always open. Now he's had some big drops. I understand that. But there are times when he is running free and Baker just doesn't look his way. So I don't know what's going on there, whether it's a schematic thing, but there's definitely something going on, obviously. There is something going on. I can't imagine that it's anything to do with Baker not wanting OBJ to shine. Get real. If OBJ shines, Baker shines.
Right.
If OBJ does well, Baker does well. I think that's silly. I think it's more, we've had two coaches now. We had Freddie Kitchens and we've had Coach Stefanski say at times that they need to get Baker's eyes in the right place, right? We've heard that multiple times from multiple coaches that Baker, maybe sometimes his eyes aren't where they're supposed to be. He's not seeing the field well. So you remember that we can go all the way back to when Baker was in college, when people asked him about if he thought his height was going to be a factor because you can't see guys downfield. And he said, newsflash, nobody can see who they throw to. Maybe some guys can see who they throw to. Maybe there really is something to be in, slightly over 6 foot with a line full of guys that are 6'6", maybe there is something to that.
Yeah. I mean, that was the first thing my dad said when they drafted him. My dad just looked at me and was like, he's not tall enough. Like that was just it. There's just not tall enough. There was no other thing else to say. And that's exactly what he still says to this day, because, and you do, if you look, there's a lot of times you're questioning, like, can he not see? I mean, he's not throwing the ball deep at all. And he's also not throwing it to when like the guys are in motion. Like
a lot of times he'll throw a little bit behind the guy or a little high. Look, the guys that are small that have been stars in this league have some characteristic that is so good that it helps them overcome their lack of height. Look, Drew Brees really was legendarily accurate. Wherever he wanted to put it, he would put it. Kyler Murray is incredibly quick. These guys that have been undersized that have played the position have had some attribute that made up for the fact that they were undersized. Right now, what about Baker? He has moxie. Okay, he's a leader. But what does he do to make up for his shortcomings? I don't know the answer to that. Early on, it looked like he got the ball out so quick. Yeah, exactly. Pun wasn't intended there. But no, early on, it looked like, maybe he got rid of the ball so quick, he pressed the field, maybe that, but it just hasn't, I think he probably looked the best as a quarterback his rookie year.
Yes.
And he hasn't looked as well. Last year, maybe some of the big games might've been a product of the system of, a fancy system. Now when he needs to make a play, like we've talked about ad nauseum now, it isn't there. And some of it this week, absolutely. Some of it this week was Jarvis fumbling. Jarvis never fumbles. Jarvis dropping passes. But even Hooper, people got on Hooper about the drop touchdown pass. That thing was way over his head. If Baker just puts it right on his chest, he walks into the end zone.
Right.
There is, we've heard about elite level ball placement. Like Baker is not anywhere near elite level ball placement today. Even the pass to Higgins, his most reliable security blanket was behind him. A lot of these passes that quote unquote dropped this week were not perfect balls, so.
Right. No, they weren't. And when we can talk about the Steelers game really and get into it, because there were so many things that went wrong in that game. So before we get to that, let's take a quick break and we will be right back.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
For the Dennis Maniloff Show, I'll tap into my 40-plus years of following Cleveland sports and 30-plus years of writing and talking about them, so as to bring you informed opinions and analysis of your favorite players and teams. I also will monitor the national sports scene and, when warranted, step out of the toy department and into the real world. And I'll always be on the lookout for special guests. By all means, join us.
Hey, it's JD from the Hyman Podcast. I created this podcast to have hard conversations. Conversations that make us human but are also wildly uncomfortable. Conversations that help give voice to the voiceless and to the marginalized. Now you can listen to the entire first season on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Consider this your personal invitation to join the conversation.
Hey, everybody. I'm Gary.
And I'm Jason. Opening cards as a kid, no matter what was in the pack, you always had that stick of chewing gum. Well, it turns out Gary and I opened up a box of 86 Tops last year, and let me tell you, the chewing gum does not age well.
Join us on the Ball Card Show,
the sports podcast for the sports collector.
This is Mike Voorhees, co-host of the Swingin' a Tribe MLB podcast. If you love Cleveland Indians baseball, then this is the pod for you. We've got you covered each week as we talk about all the games, breaking news, trades, the roster, all things Tribe. You're going to love it. Go Tribe.
Hey, it's Tito, host of the Premier Fantasy Podcast. Get all the news and analysis you need to dominate your fantasy league. I've been doing this as long as anybody in the business. I can help give you the edge in your leagues. It's the Premier Fantasy Podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Want to hear more about your favorite TV shows and movies that are on countless streaming services?
Then listen to Up Next with your new favorite hosts, me, Kristen Aviles,
and me, Christina Walter.
Every other week, we'll highlight one genre, but 2 movies or TV shows, one old and one new.
We'll let you know what's hot and what's not from your favorite
or least favorite
streaming services.
And be sure to stay tuned to the end of each episode where we shout out an artist whose name you should know for their talent in the industry.
So follow us to stay up to date with your favorite hosts from Up Next,
a part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
All right, we are back on the Orange is Oranger Cleveland Browns podcast. I am Holly Wetzel, joined with my man Jeremy. We are breaking down the craziness of the Browns' current issues of today, which seem to change every day. It is a constant soap opera. Nothing's changed here in Cleveland, unfortunately. And, you know, we've gone over the just the inconsistencies across the board with this team. And now that we've gone over today's drama, which who knows what will happen tomorrow, I do not want to be in that locker room tomorrow, Jeremy.
No.
At all.
And look, Baker's a fiery guy. Is he going to just let this thing with Odell go? I mean, what are they going to say to each other?
How?
I mean, if Higgins, you know, really purposely liked that post on Instagram, like all this stuff, it's just like, man, how do they walk in there tomorrow and what's going to go down once they do? And Coach Stefanski's kind of the heady, you know, how's he going to deal with this? You know, Coach Stefanski's attitude is great when you're winning, that we're going to work and, you know, he's not going to be over the top. He's not going to scream. He's not going to yell. He's going to be, you know, when you're not winning, how is that going to go over? What, you know, so it's going to be a very, you're right, a very interesting day in Berea tomorrow as the players come back from their off day.
Yeah. And speaking of Stefanski, I'd like to actually focus on him for a minute because you bring up like his calmness. And that is one thing that we've tended to preach and love about him, of just the way that he kind of commands the room and people have a lot of respect for him. And he's always calm, cool, collective. But lately, and I don't know if you noticed, I tweeted this the other day about his podcast or his press conferences that I got to do a better job. I got to do a better job. Like, my God, if I was playing a drinking game to that, I would be hammered because at some point, like, I want him to be pissed. I want him to get up there. And I know someone wrote back, like, all the best coaches, like, don't show any emotion in press conferences. It's like, fuck that. Have you listened to Mike Tomlin? Like, you have to show some type of emotion when it comes to your players playing like shit.
Yeah.
You have to. We want to see that with him. So is that maybe one of his strong abilities might be one of the weak abilities, because right now it looks like he doesn't have control of his locker room.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking. I mean, look, it looks great. This calm, cool, always in command, never, you know, losing your temper stuff when you're winning. But when you need someone to step in, when you're the Browns are 4th in the league at penalties now. You know, this was supposed to be one of their strong points. And we talked about this earlier in the year. You know, there wasn't the pre-snap penalties last year, all this stuff where they were really dialed in, locked in. That's not there now. And maybe has he lost the team's attention? And how does a guy that is so calm and cool get it back once he loses it? You know, does he go out of character and start screaming? That's tough to do. So it is, you know, I wouldn't want to be in his shoes right now to try to figure out where do you change, you know. Bill Parcells famously said, you are what your record says you are. You are what you are. And right now the Browns are average. And,
Yes.
and you can't change your scheme. That's another. You can't change your scheme in the middle of the year. If the teams have figured you out and you're 8 games in and you don't have your bye for 5 more weeks, like you can't make wholesale large changes if teams have figured you out. So this is going to be a very interesting couple games here to save their season. The Cincinnati game and then on to New England on the road after that. I mean, this is it. This is the season right here. If you can find a way to pull things together and get through these 2 games and then have Detroit coming to town, things are starting to look a lot better. But I mean, as we sit right now, do you feel really good about going into Cincinnati this week, even after they lost to the Jets? I mean, I don't feel great about it right now with all the distraction on top of the fact that the last 3 games, we've scored 10, 17, 14. We can't get into the 20s now after looking, like a team that was going to average 30 a game early. So just a whole litany of issues right now. And we're going to see what we're made of. That's for sure. I'll tell you that this upcoming week or so.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the to preach average is just we are average across the board. Everyone is and barely there. I mean, I was looking at some of the Baker stats, and I know that he's not throwing long, but his average target is just over 7 yards downfield. 7. He's only completed 6 passes beyond 10 yards. Like that's very glaring. And you mentioned the penalties. I mean, it shows a lack of discipline and a higher level of dysfunction going on, because there's clearly something off, and they're not, Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski are not really taking control of that. I mean, it's really boneheaded, stupid penalties that we're getting. And then on top of that, I can't help but think too, I don't know if you remember this. I asked Jason Lloyd this when we had him on. Oh no, you didn't do the pod with Jason Lloyd, right?
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So you were off that day. We had Jason on, and this is something I've brought up a couple times. And, COVID last year, everyone likes to say, like, we beat so much stuff through COVID. It was such a tough year. And look, we did. We weren't the only team going through it, but we certainly capitalized on the situation as much as we possibly could, I felt, because if there was ever a time that it was literally they were living and breathing football, it was last year. Yeah. Constantly. And so I do wonder, is because things are relatively, for the most part, back to normal, the focus is gone. I did see Emily Mayfield retweeted a video that Wyatt Teller's wife posted, that they had a Halloween party Sunday night after the Steelers game.
Lost, right?
I mean, having the grand old time, and that's hard. You want to do that? Fine. Don't post it. It's hard. All of that stuff starts to now bother everybody.
Yeah.
When you're playing like crap.
Another thing I'll add to that, no organization with the kind of guys that run it, the DePodestas, the Andrew Berry's, the Browns were probably the most equipped to deal with like the little things like remote meetings, because they have guys that really understand this younger coaches that understand, the Zoom, the Zoom type. I know that sounds like a silly thing, but it's not, because these guys understood how to use this technology and how to use it to their benefit. So I think the Browns had an advantage there. And I agree 100%. There was nothing else to do. You couldn't go to a bar. The bars weren't even open last year. You couldn't go hang out. Remember, until it's almost crazy to think that until just a few months ago, there was a curfew. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like we literally couldn't go to the bar because there's a 10 o'clock curfew for how long, so little things like that. You're right. There's definitely more distractions now. Every team's dealing with them, obviously. Well, maybe in some, like California areas, you still can't go to the bar, but I mean, all the teams are back to at least relative normalcy. And it's just a new layer of issues to worry about. So yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, if we would have won, no one cares that Wyatt Teller has a party Saturday night, right? But you lose and you come to the stadium dressed in, a Grim Reaper outfit, and then you go to the podium after the game in your Grim Reaper outfit after you just lost the game. I mean, we love Miles here, obviously, but just not a great look. And there was no one in the organization to say, "Hey, Miles, throw on a t-shirt and some brown sweatpants until after this." Something. There had to be someone. Should have jumped up and grabbed him and said, "Look, Miles, this is a bad look, dude. You played good. It wasn't your fault we lost, but throw your t-shirt on and then throw your costume back on after the presser." It's just a lot of weird stuff going on there. Who's in charge? Who's the strong voice? And maybe there is. Look, maybe there's a guy we don't know about that has that voice that come in and yell and get people's attention. outside of Stefanski, because some teams do have that. And maybe we just don't know that guy's there, but they're going to have it, because it's starting to look like this is a rudderless ship at this point.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, the one guy that kind of comes to mind that's on the team that is a leader certainly obviously on the field, but also emotionally, is Jarvis Landry. And interesting, what made me think about him too, though, is that he's, you know, that's OBJ's boy.
Yeah, best friend, right?
So he's got to also probably be in like the middle here.
Right.
Because he's got his best friend, right? And then he's got Baker, who he has this chemistry with, and he has this great team, right? And he's got all of this. So he's definitely got to be in the middle, which also makes me want to then transition into where do we go from here? What is the next move? What is there any type of, you know, is who's talking to who tonight? Was there any emails or messages or anything? Like, I'm so curious.
Can you imagine some of
the wall?
Can you imagine some of the text chains going out right now? Oh my gosh, it's got to be. And do you have this? Like, I mean, I don't know. Do you have players that now want Case Keenum? I mean, we don't know any of this. You're right. It's got to be some interesting stuff going on. Like I said, to be a fly on the wall in the meetings tomorrow in Berea. My goodness, to be Nathan Zagura tomorrow and hear the stuff going on in that building.
Can you imagine walking into that building like just trying to like, I'm just trying to get to the studio.
Yeah,
Don't
exactly. You know,
mind me.
Nathan and Bo, exactly. Like sneak right to their offices, I'm sure, tomorrow, man. Just just something. But you know what? The one thing we can say, and as long as I've been doing this show, and I know you've been in podcast and media for a long time, it's never boring. It's never boring, whether we're good or bad. No. It's never boring. There is always something to talk about when it comes to Cleveland sports, especially the Browns.
Yeah. Yep, 100%. I mean, there's certainly never a dull moment. There's always something going on, and we cannot escape it. And I know that a lot of teams deal with it. This is, you know, not unheard of, but it's amazing to me that every time I think something like crazier couldn't happen, like OBJ's dad retweeting this video and then like responding to all this bakery, like it's just unbelievable to me. Like I'm like, I did not see that coming. How have you continued to surprise me every day? Like, so now I'm like, okay, we had to right the ship quick. It's Tuesday. We have to go to the Bengals.
Yeah.
I don't feel good at all. Like you mentioned, that they lost to the Jets. That was a fluke. I think they thought maybe they could rest up a little bit because they knew they had us coming. I don't know. I mean, there's so many different reasons of why things maybe went south for them. But I know that if there's ever time they should be playing the Browns, it's Sunday, because again, we love to talk about too, every week, we don't know what team is showing up on Sunday. And I certainly did not think that last Sunday against the Steelers, that was what was going to show up that day at all. Nobody was on at all. And if anything, because nobody was on, it exposed Baker with just his averageness.
Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
It's frustrating.
And that's the problem we talked about. If the Browns, if everything's not perfect for Baker, it feels like he's not good enough. And you know, Nick Chubb, I think Nick Chubb looked a little bit hurt still. He actually went into the 10 at one point.
Yes.
For a little bit. Never got the run game going because they were daring us to throw. They were playing 8 in the box, and Coach Stefanski talked about this. They knew what we were going to do. They sat on it. Coach Stefanski said that they didn't let us get outside the pocket as far as Baker rolling out. He said they played their ends really wide so that a lot of the boot action stuff wouldn't work. And that's been the knock. What's been the knock? That Baker has problems when you force him into the pocket. You know, so force him to stay in the pocket. And then when you don't have the running game going, Baker can't get outside the pocket where he feels comfortable. That's what you have happen. I'll tell you what, honestly, being at the game, it was a boring game. It was boring. It was 3-3 at halftime. I actually felt really good after Dearness Johnson scored. It's like, you know what, we're probably going to win this game. I thought we were going to win.
I did too.
When we went up 10-3, thought they didn't have a kicker, you know, who may or may not have taken an illegal hit over there on the sidelines.
Yep. I know. I remember. Yeah.
But they didn't have their kicker. We were up 10-3. I was feeling really good about the fact that they're going to win that game. But it just, you know, the guys who are normally reliable, like Jarvis. I mean, look, let's be honest. Jarvis probably hasn't dropped 3 balls since he's been here. And he has a couple drops. Yes. A couple of them were tough catches, like we said. But the fumble, I mean, that was a 15-yard gain. We'd have had it 1st and goal, or 1st and 10 at the 15-yard line with a chance to take the lead late in the game. So, I mean, that's a huge play. And that's a guy that generally makes those plays for you and, you know, puts you in the position to win games. So you can't put this one all on Baker.
No. Definitely not.
When you have your most reliable guys, when you have your Nick Chubb, you have your Jarvis Landry not playing up to the level that you're accustomed to them playing, this kind of stuff can happen. But also that's also a point where maybe Baker has to rise up above this and make a play. But it's just a bad game, a boring game, bad loss. And now
he didn't look hurt, Jeremy. I mean, I think that's the other thing too. It's like, well, is he hurt? Well, he's good enough to play. Okay. But how's he playing? Well, average. Why? Well, probably because he's hurt. Okay. Then why is he playing?
Yeah,
it's like this constant thing every week. So why is he playing?
You can't use it as an excuse now. If you're going to play and you're going to say he can play and he's going to play better than Case, who at the very least is an average quarterback. Right.
Right.
So if you are, if you can't play up to your standards because you're injured, you shouldn't be playing. So I don't even want to hear that excuse. I did it. Now being fair, I didn't hear anyone use it as an excuse this week. I didn't hear anyone say it. Baker didn't. I didn't hear the team say it.
Well,
so
Twitter's still loving to bring that up.
Of course.
Well, he's not playing his potential. I mean, how can you not?
You can't even have. They can't have an honest.
It's like
right. You can't factor it in because if he's hurt enough to affect his play that bad, then you play the average quarterback who's won games and taken you to a playoff that you're paying $6 million a year to. If Baker is hurt to the point where it's affecting his play even a little bit, then Case Keenum should be playing right now. So I'm not even going to listen to it. There's no excuses. Baker has got to play, and Baker and like you said, he didn't look hurt to me. Now I don't know. I watched it live. I actually could. Generally, I go back and watch it again. I couldn't even watch it again. I'm like, I don't even want to see this again. I sat through it once. So, but to me, live and in person, he looked fine. He didn't look hurt. He had the great play where he had on the 3rd and 2 where he picked up 3 yards and got hit out of bounds and got excited. So he didn't look hurt there. He didn't look hurt to me. So I think we do have to hold him to, a standard and not let him use that or anyone else use that as an excuse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And so, since he made it through last game, we will be seeing him on Sunday with all things considered, for the good old Battle of Ohio. And just some little fun facts for you, Jeremy. The Bengals lead us 51-44 in the series, and they've won 9 of the last 15.
Oh, wow.
And home field has been a big factor as Bengals tend to lead 31-17 at home, but trail 20-27 as the road club. So also they are, they tend to come out pretty hot after the break with their scoring as well, statistically. So, which is somewhere where we definitely lack as well. So it's going to be a tough one. I wonder, I worry, I shouldn't say I wonder. I worry if whether or not, if they're going to be able to overcome this on a mental level. I just don't, and be able to get out there and get things done. And I think about the rest of the season. I'm like, how in the world are we going to be able to play the Ravens twice, play Green Bay on Christmas Day, and even think about possibly winning any of those games? It just doesn't, we can't even get through a week without shit hitting the fan.
You're not going to beat Green Bay without scoring 30 points. And right now we can't even score 20 points. Right. I guess the one thing I'll say that we have going for us this week is if there's been one team that Baker Mayfield has owned since he came into the league, it's been the Bengals. Some of his best performances, actually, I can right off the top of my head, last year, both games, we scored a lot of points and beat them. He hit Donovan Peoples-Jones with 10 seconds left. Remember, at the end of the game in Cincinnati, that was the game, the Odell Beckham injury game where he completed 20 passes in a row. So if there's one thing we have going for us, it's that we'll see how tough he is. We know he does it. Look, nobody's questioning Baker's toughness. No one's questioning his moxie, his leadership ability, stuff like that. If he is an elite level leader, this will be the week where he'll have to try to bring these guys together and win a game. You never say, a lot of people say you can't say a game is must win until you're mathematically eliminated. Well, guess what? I don't care. This is a must win. This is a must win game. Look, all of a sudden the Patriots are looking like a legit team. They've had 2 great games in a row. You go into New England the next week. So this is just, to me, this is a game, the season saving game. We'll see what Coach Stefanski's made of. We'll see what Baker Mayfield's made of. We'll see about Odell Beckham. Look, I don't know if you've listened to Coach Stefanski's press conference this week, but he straight said, he's like, look, I got to find a way to get Odell Beckham the ball. That's on me, So you're right. You do. Look,
I heard him say.
I've been saying it, watching at the games. He is open a lot of times. Now there's visual evidence and everyone can see that Odell Beckham has not lost that much of, as far as a route runner. He's open. He's open all the time. He's beating guys. So they got to figure out a way to figure out why him and Baker can't connect. They got to figure it out fast. Look, he's here now. They're not going to cut him. They're not going to eat $8 million. He's here. He's here the rest of this year, and they got to figure something out. And hopefully it's not too late with Odell to get to work and figure something out.
Right. Exactly. And with Baker being a leader on this team and the leader, he needs to be the bigger person, obviously. And despite everything and try to right the ship.
I agree.
When what I worry about with him is that he's not always the bigger person, and he does succumb to drama and BS and always things we love about him, things we don't. And this is one where we really need him to go above and beyond the crap and just accept the fact that this happened and do whatever he can to go forward. And I will say this, Jeremy, if I do have faith, if this were to ever happen under any regime, I'm happy it's happening under this one, because I do think that with Stefanski and Berry, I do think those are the right fits. I really do. When it's all said and done, I do hope and I do trust that they will be able to turn this around and do what they have to do to make things go forward in a positive way. I did not expect it to go this south this quickly. And this way.
Yeah. Well, remember, you know what they call the NFL stands for not for long. Just like 7 months ago, we're crowning him coach of the year. And now we're questioning whether he still has the locker room and the players still believe in him and if his system works. So it is, it's something, man. Even after the first game in Kansas City where we were, oh man, what a game. The offense looks great. Like, who could have ever thought that we'd be here right now? Now, some of it is injuries and some of it is, stuff beyond our control, but man, just the fact that we're 4-4 right now and seems like we're kind of in disarray. But it's a week to week thing. Who knows? Like we said, maybe Sunday they come out and they're world beaters and, they look
Wouldn't
like
that
the
be
Browns.
Something, though? Wouldn't that happen?
Yeah, that's so Cleveland, right? We're all burying them and then they come out and that's Baker. Actually, that's been Baker's whole career, right? Even in college, like just when you think he's done and buried, he rises up and does something big. So hopefully, that's the one thing. Like I just said, that's one thing we can hold hope out, is that Baker has A, played well with his back against the wall, and B, played well against the Bengals since he's been in the NFL.
Yep. So it's time to ask you what your prediction is.
Oh no, I don't even want to give this one. No, you know what? I like the Bengals roster. Look, Jamar Chase. I mean, what can you say about him? He's been unbelievable. Just an unbelievable talent. Coach Stefanski did say today that there's a chance Denzel Ward plays. So that would be a big help this week. I mean, Greedy was kind of lost in the soup. They picked on him quite a bit. I thought Greg Newsome looked phenomenal this week, made the big tackle at the end of the game to give us a chance back. He looks the part. He's the deal. So, if Denzel can play, I'll feel a lot better about our chances. But man, I worry if Greedy's opposite Greg Newsome this week on any one of those guys, whoever they end up matching, whether it's Taj Boyd, or Jamar, any of those guys. So I think the Bengals are going to win this game. I think it's going to be a 28-17 type deal. I think the Browns, there's too much drama, too much going on behind the scenes. I would love to be wrong. I'd be the happiest person ever if Monday we come back and say, hey, I was wrong. But I think the Bengals win this game. I think the Browns right now, the way the offense is, they're going to have a tough time getting to 20 points. So I'm going to say Bengals 28, Browns 17.
Yep. I was just going to say, it's hard for me to predict the Browns over 15, 17 points for the most part. I mean, it's they haven't gotten there. So it's
3 weeks of under 20.
Yes, I do think I'm with you. I definitely think the Bengals are probably going to pull this one out. I would love to be wrong too. I'd love to see Baker show out. I'd love to see this team come together after all this and prove our, typical Browns fan mentality of just the season's over crap with all this drama. I would love to be proven wrong on that. And like I said, if there's any regime that I think it could happen under, it's definitely this one. And it's just a matter of, it's growing up. You make way too much money to be dealing with this bullshit. You just do.
No, I agree.
So I do think the Bengals take it. I'll say Browns 14. I'll say Bengals 28. So
we'll see.
But you know what? If they do win this, Jeremy, think about it. So if the Browns win, if they do, they'd go 5-4.
With
Bengals
New England
are
would be
and then
5-4 as well.
And so would
the Bengals 5-3 right now.
5-4. Bengals would be they're
5-3 right now because they lost to the Jets. They're 5-2, flying high off the Ravens win, and then they lost to the Jets, so they're 5-3. So we'd be 5-4. They'd be 5-4, and then the Steelers are 4-4 right now. So depending upon what they did next week, so
right. So we're right back in it. You know, if we get this W. So it's not.
That's why these 2 weeks. These 2 weeks are just so pivotal. You know, and then if you can win these 2 weeks, and you got the Lions, who's you want to talk about a dumpster fire. Right. The Lions coming in the First Energy Stadium on the November 21st. So, So you still got a shot. Look, the season's not over yet. Now we lose Sunday. They start putting the nails in. You know what I mean? Right. but we still have a shot.
Yes.
And like I said, you had the glimmer of hope with Baker, against the Bengals, and Baker with his back to the wall. So
yes. Very true.
We will see.
Good point. He does tend to, last Sunday he played it well enough to definitely win that game. I believe that wholeheartedly. It was very evident. The other pieces did not step up, and his back was against the wall. So this is going to be a big test for him on a lot of levels, mentally,
I agree.
Leadership wise, just really showing how much he's grown up, and taking charge of his team. So I'm hopeful, super skeptical, right? And trying to be realistic about everything. And I feel like that's what you and I are pretty realistic about a lot of things with the Browns, but cautiously optimistic as usual. So let's hope big game Sunday. Crossing my fingers.
Wouldn't it be nice to see Odell Beckham come out and have a big game? That would just be, that's like best case scenario. Baker plays well, Odell plays well, and we get the win, and then maybe we can get something, something brewing there. Right. So let's hope for that. Let's hope for Baker and Odell finding something this week and making some plays Sunday.
And can everyone just let your family members know that there's not any reason to be tweeting or posting anything in defense when there's nothing to defend in the first place in that sense? It's not necessary. Hopefully this is a learning experience that, they grow from and never have it happen again. But we know that that's not gonna happen. So
probably, that's probably not realistic. Before we go, one thing. So,
we want to do
we had the drawing for the.
Yes.
Ironically, we had the drawing for the Odell Beckham Jr. football.
Yep.
What a time to be auctioning off a side OBJ football. But the winner actually, Kim Fulton. So the school doesn't know she is, so it could be one of our listeners. So if it is you, Kim, find me on Facebook. Shoot us a message on Twitter. We will get the ball to you. But Kim Fulton, we did sell all the tickets they wanted to sell. They made I think $700-ish for the school off the ball, so that was good. So if Kim Fulton, if you are listening, go to either send me a message on Facebook or find us on Twitter, and we'll get in touch with you. So congratulations, Kim Fulton, on winning the Odell Beckham Jr. signed football.
Awesome, Kim. What a time to win this football. You are.
This is something, man.
Go play the lottery, Kim. Okay. You can't beat this.
Bring us some good juju. Let's go. Maybe Kim will bring some good fortunes to Odell Baker and the Browns. Let's
take
turn
a
this thing
picture and
around.
send it to his dad or something.
Post it on Instagram. Tag Odell Senior.
All right, that's awesome. That's really great, Jeremy, that you guys did that. So happy for you, Kim. Very cool stuff. We will be back next week breaking down whatever team shows up, whether we win, lose by a lot. It could go any way. So if you like surprises, you are a Cleveland Browns fan. There's just no other way around it. So, Jeremy, we'll talk to you next week. Cross your fingers.
I will never, ever, I promise you, I will never be more happy to be wrong than if we win this game. And I would love to see Baker and Odell and everybody shut us up, Coach Stefanski, the whole thing. I would never have been happier to be wrong as if we go out and win this game.
Yep.
Period.
Yes. Just echoing that over and over. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one. Talk to you next week.
Go Browns.
It's a question of life. It's the story